ask yourself the question, what do I want to be buried in and why? Some of these things can be funny. What matters is what comes to your mind. An interesting question came up recently amongst a group of people. And the question is, what do you want to be buried in? Not meaning, a coffin or anything like that, or cremation, but when you're dead, when you die, what do you want to be dressed in? And the answers that came up from this question were very telling, very funny, but they kind of led to different observations about life. For example, one person said, what do you want to be, when the question was asked, what do you want to be buried in, said, oh, anything we're throwing out at the time. Anything that needs to go or that we want to get rid of. Which was a hilarious answer, like as though it's so irrelevant that just throw something in there like garbage that you can't throw out. Throwing out garbage here is a little different than in America. It's a challenge. Interesting response. But then when pressed, well, do you want to be buried in a business suit? No. Not a business suit, no. That's not me at all. Okay. Do you want to be, but by the end of it, it was, well, where did you feel, next question was, where did you feel most yourself? Most your essence, who you were. Was there a moment in time? And the person said, this was a man, oh, well, building houses. When I was building houses, I felt like myself. Oh, farming, when I was farming. I felt like myself when I was farming. Playing soccer. Oh, playing soccer, that was me. Yeah, that was myself. So any of those things, for men, I think it's different. They associate themselves with their job, what they do, and what they achieve, maybe even. But so the observation was, well, we kind of can't bury you in a soccer uniform. You're going to be older and more dignified than that. But there was no attachment for him to clothing at all. His essence was found in motion, in what he was doing when he was here. Not being so much as doing. But great, no problem. Interestingly, it brought up for him, what I don't want to be buried in is my high school uniform. Because he was in a boarding school and he felt very isolated and alone and taken away from his family. That was a bad memory for him. So he could identify which time in his life was not something he wanted to carry with him. Interesting stuff. Another person was asked, what do you want to be buried in? And one person said, almost a nothing. Like a plain cotton dress, a simple sweater. That connects me to the a time in childhood, pre-sexual, freedom, outside, those kinds of things. That was the identity that came up for this person. It's an interesting question to ask. You might have a blank slate, but ask yourself, what makes me feel most like myself? When in my life did I feel most like myself? Who was I when I felt most like myself? Some people will say, oh, it's before I was injured, before an accident, before a failure. But these failures and accidents and suffering and struggles inform us in wonderful ways. They make us, they can. You might carry wounds. There was a man who came back from World War I and he was missing an arm. And people would have thought, oh, that's the end of him, he's missing his arm. He went into politics, he was highly successful. He was known as the one-armed politician and it didn't even slow him down. From that tragedy, he came back. That was pivotal. It was a moment. It was a pivotal moment. When did he feel most like himself? I'm not sure. But he went on to be very energized and successful in trying to make things better for people because of his experience in the war. He came back and said, all that really matters is that you help people have okay lives, reduce their suffering. My friends, ask yourself the question, what do I want to be buried in and why? some of these things can be funny. I mean, you know, I know what you say, but sure, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is what comes to your mind. But there was a person who was very, very serious. And when this person died, everyone around her was devastated. So somebody who didn't know her came in and grabbed something out of the closet, and it was a purple negligee that was given to her by somebody who was very flamboyant, and, you know, just, it wasn't something she would ever have worn. And then she ended up buried in it, which was kind of funny later. Later, it became a funny moment. But the cool thing about it is this. When you looked at it, you saw the opposite. You saw an identity. Be curious about yourself and about your life.